there is some news brewing right now that a lot of people are really suffering. Now, if anybody, especially from Anaheim, California, or Orlando, Florida, know that Disney does not call their employees employees. They call their employees cast members, CAST. And that's really an acronym, but they call their employees cast members, members of a cast, basically, right? So, cast members from Disney are being laid off. How many? Well, let's take a look. If you guys do not subscribe to the World Socialist website, it is a great resource. But it says Disney announces 7,000 layoffs after exceeding Wall Street profit estimates. 7,000 people being laid off. Remember when Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook, Twitter, as many other different tech giants also announced mass layoffs? Well, Disney's doing the same. Let's get into it. This is written by Kevin Reed. I'm not going to read the entire article because I want you guys to go to it and give this article a read, because when it comes to sites like World Socialist website, we want them to get the clicks, we want them to get the traffic, but I want to touch on some pieces to the story so that we're up to speed on what's going on. So it starts with the media and entertainment monopoly. Walt Disney Company announced 7,000 layoffs on Wednesday as part of a corporate restructuring aimed at increasing profits and improving investor earnings by cutting $5.5 billion in costs. An earnings call with investors, Disney CEO Robert Iger, yes, Robert Iger was placed back as CEO of Walt Disney Company, presented the jobs massacre as a cause for celebration, saying, quote, "It's time for another transformation," end quote. Meanwhile, Iger said, "I have enormous respect and appreciation for the dedication of our employees worldwide. Even though 3% of Disney's 220,000 workers will be losing their jobs." The layoffs are connected with a reorganization that Iger said was necessary to dramatically cut costs that will fully materialize by the end of 2024. Of the $5.5 billion in cost savings, $2.5 billion are in non-content aspects of corporation, such as marketing, 50%, labor costs, 30%, and technology, 20%. It is significant that Disney is taking advantage of the climate of mass layoffs hitting technology, financial, and other sectors that had huge losses in the past year to go after the job of its employees while the company had a profitable quarter. 7,000 job cuts were announced through Disney, though Disney reported revenues of $24.5 billion in the quarter that ended in December, an 8% increase compared to last year, and earnings rose to $1.28 billion from $1.1 billion a year ago, beating analyst projections. However, the all-important per-share earning category fell to 99 cents from $1.06 last year. And so this goes on to say how Disney Plus actually lost some money. And so, but the main takeaway basically is Disney made a buttload of money, and in order to make more money, they're going to be laying off people whose lives will be directly affected. So this is what's going on. And a lot of people are fans of Disney. Yeah, I got a Disney Plus account too. Yeah, what of it? But the problem is that these corporations, all of them, are basically doing this restructuring while doing mass layoffs. So this goes into the capitalist aspect. Because did they make money year over year? Yes. But to them, it's not enough. And what do we always say? Capitalism is a economic system, an economic model that requires infinite growth on a planet with finite resources. So in order to continuously do that, in order to do that, even if they don't make money from the revenue, they still have to make money somewhere. So what does that mean? That means cutting costs. And some of those costs are labor. That means people like you and me. That means people like our neighbors, our friends, our family, people like that. And so they're the ones that suffer, even though the corporation still made a profit, even though these executives still made bank, even though a lot of times the shareholders still got their dividend checks. It's still not enough. They want more. That is how these corporations work. Disney is the one of the foremost of these corporations that continuously does this. And then who gets shafted? Who gets screwed? It's us. It's us. And a lot of times people will go, well, out of 220,000, only 3%, that's very small numbers. But then once you put it into actual numbers of how many people, how many households that will affect, 7,000 households. 7,000 households. I'm not saying people, I'm saying households, because there are people who depend on that check in order to make a living. Now, there was there are people who are unionized at Disney. Yeah. There are people who are unionized, and this is out of Orlando Weekly. And by the way, I live in Orlando, so this is very close to home. This is home. So it says Disney's best offer for union employees falls short, according to the workers' unions. The STCU, a coalition of 6 labor unions representing 42,000 Disney employees, recommends rejecting the latest offer. And this was on January 10th of this year. So it says after months of contract negotiations, and a rally to bring attention to the need for the Walt Disney Company to pay its Orlando employees wages that keep up with the cost of living, the unions representing Disney workers say the company's best offer falls short. Disney workers are facing extreme financial difficulties, including inflation, which has caused a price of food and rent to skyrocket. The Services Trade Council Union, a coalition of 6 labor unions representing 42,000 Disney employees, shared in a news release. According to the unions, Disney unveiled its best offer for Orlando employees during contract negotiations on Monday. The offer, in line with what Central Florida's largest employer floated last year, is an immediate $1 raise for the majority of their union workers in 2023, which would bring the minimum wage for their lowest paid workers to $16 an hour, and a $1 raise annually over the next 5 years. Now, what is the counter? What is the demand, right? The demand is the unions say this isn't good enough. The STCU has called on Disney to establish an $18 minimum wage and a $3 pay raise in 2023 for workers who already make near or above that to keep up with the higher cost of living in Central Florida. Now, there is I honestly say that that is inadequate even as a demand. I'm going to tell you why. Um, I think it's yeah. So of course, you guys know that I live in Central Florida. So I'm going to share something with you guys, and then we'll continue back to the article. But they're saying $18 an hour with a $3 wage increase for 2023. I say, why go so small? That's what I say. So this is a great calculator, and you guys can use this. I'm going to put the link in the chat. If you guys go to livingwage.mit.edu, it actually gives the calculable minimum wage for the area that you live. Now, let me see. All right. So all you do is you go to that site and then you select the location, right? So for me, I'm in Florida. And then we go to the county that you're in. I'm in Orange County, which is also where Disney is located. It says living wage calculation for Orange County, Florida. It says the living wage shown is the hourly rate that an individual in a household must earn to support his or herself and their family. The assumption is the sole provider is working full time, 2,080 hours per year. The tool provides information for individuals and households with one or two working adults and 0 to 3 children. In that case of households with two working adults, all values are per working adult, single, or in a family unless otherwise noted. The state minimum wage is the same for all individuals, regardless of how many dependents they may have. Data is updated annually in the first quarter of the new year. State minimum wages are determined based on the posted value of the minimum wage as of January of the coming year. So let's take a look. So let's say you're just a single adult with no kids and it says 1885, right? But what is the average rent in Florida? Actually, let me do Orange County because that's a little bit more wider. Did that actually wait? Did that go up? Did that go up? It's even worse than I. Holy shit! It went up since the last time I looked. Holy shit! All right, hold up. Let me show you all this. It went up. I had in my mind a number in next, because of living here, and then it went up. It went up. It went up. It's just crazy. This is ridiculous. All right, so this is from rent.com. So average rent in Orlando, Florida is $1,769. Wait, what? How in the hell is a studio more expensive? What the hell? Studio average rent in Kirkman, Princeton, Silver Star. That's the hood. That's 1,600. Dear God. Holy crap. It went up. It literally went up. Because the last time I looked, it had to be like 2 months ago. Holy crap. Well, let's do the math. So if we're looking at $1,700, right? And you need to make 3 times that in order to afford it, right? Per month. That's $5,100 you need to make. Divide that by 160 hours. I don't know if y'all can see this, but $31.87 an hour. So even by MIT standards, it's still inadequate. Even by MIT standards. Because they're saying 18 bucks an hour, and then the union said, oh, well, we should go by 18 bucks an hour. And then I look at the average price for a one-bedroom apartment in Orlando, which is about $1,700. Because look, if you're making $18 an hour times 160 hours a week, that's $2,280, right? So divided by 3, it means your rent has to be around $960, right? But guess what? Nobody's paying a rent at $960 for a one-bedroom. Nobody. So if that's the case, then why in the hell is a union shooting so low? Because Disney, the parks, made record profits. So my question to the union leaders is, why are y'all aiming so low? Y'all need to be aiming for 45 an hour. Bump that. Disney tickets are astronomical right now. And they're having record attendance in the parks. And they raised their ticket prices. So for somebody to come at me and go, but JB, they got to make a profit. I'm like, what about the workers? I don't care about the shareholders. The shareholders can kick rocks. I don't care about the capitalists. I care about the workers, the labor. 7,000 households. 7,000. And in order for them to actually be good, they need to have a rent of $960 or lower. That's $18 an hour. 18. And then Disney's like, oh, we're only going to pay you 16. What? When in reality, they should be asking for a lot more. And that's at 40 hours a week, not counting how they may cut your hours below 40. So you literally need to make $32 an hour to afford an apartment in Orlando. You need to make 32, and they're going, yeah, let's do 16. That's literally half of what you need to make. And people wonder why so many of us are turning to socialism. because capitalism is showing its whole ass. That's what it's doing. And it's showing us that it is wholly inadequate and cannot sustain us. It is an unsustainable economic model that only favors a very small group of people. There's more to this story, by the way. More. So I have a video that I'm going to be showing you guys. And this is actually going to tie in to what I'm talking about, the state of crime. This is going to tie in. So hold on to your hats. But let me share my screen. Actually, let me go back to this before I go to that video. Sorry. Let's go back to this. So it says leadership of all 6 unions have recommended that union members reject the latest offer from Disney. $16 per hour in 2023 does not keep up with the rising cost of living. And $18 of an hour does? Come on now. It says every worker needs an initial raise larger than $1 to address these concerns. No shit, Sherlock. In fact, they need a $17 an hour raise. At least. Housing costs in Central Florida have soared, this is true, over the past 2 years, placing the region's low-wage service industry workers at heightened risk for displacement, eviction, and homelessness. Quote, I've never seen grown men break down. Penson, a second-generation Disney employee, said last year that he knew several co-workers who slept in their cars or pass up meals. Quote, I mean, to actually see a grown man tear up because he can't pay a bill, it's hard for people to work and live in Orlando. You literally have people, and people will say, go find a job. They literally have a job. They're literally working for one of the biggest corporations in the United States, and they literally cannot afford to work. A report released last year said United Here Local 737, one of the unions that represents Disney workers, shared that 69% of 2,415 tourism workers surveyed, including but not limited to workers employed by Disney, said that they hadn't had the money to pay rent or mortgage costs over the last year. 26% said they had to move as a result of rent or mortgage increases, and 45% reported skipping meals to cut costs. This is Disney, y'all. Central Florida's tourism industry, meanwhile, has bounced back from pandemic slowdowns and is enjoying profits surpassing pandemic levels. The Walt Disney Company last year generated a revenue of nearly $83 billion and $28.7 billion in the company's theme park division alone. And yet you got people sleeping in their cars and skipping meals just to make these people more money. And a lot of these people live in my area. Some of them have to take the 50, the bus, the 50 at downtown and then get to Disney. See, the thing is that a lot of people, they actually have to take 2 or more buses just to get to work. Trust me, I know. I've actually rode the bus to Disney before. So you have to jump on the bus. Depending on where you live, you might have to take 3 because you have to get on the bus. Like for me, if I wanted to go to Disney, I would literally have to take the 8 towards SeaWorld, and that's literally like 45 minutes to an hour ride, right? Maybe a little bit more, depending on traffic. And then you will have to get off, jump on the 50, and then take the 50 over to the TTC, the Transportation Ticket Center, right? Meanwhile, some people have to go back downtown to the the Lynx bus station, jump on the 50, then take the 50 all the way to the TTC. And then once they get there, then they have to travel even more because Disney World is massive. It is oh my God, Disney is massive. A massive property. Acres and acres and acres and acres and acres of land. And so you literally have to, if you want to get to work on time, you literally have to leave like 3 to 4 hours before is your time to clock in. Because not only do you have to take the bus to get there, but you also have to take transportation on the property just to get to where you need to go. That means either taking a Disney bus or the monorails or other means of transportation to get to where you need to go. Just to get to where you need to clock in. Disney is that massive. It is enormous. And yet, now you have people having to sleep in their cars. And they have to skip meals just to be able to afford to live. Now, let me see. There was another article that I wanted to, let me see. Okay, here it is, yeah. And this also is corroborated by United Here Local 362. So United Local 362, which is also a union. And they said January 9th update says Disney's management presented union representatives its best offer today. The offer on wages is largely the same as the original offer that only provides an initial $1 increase for all Locals 362 union cast members. The leadership of all 6 unions of the STCU are unanimously recommending workers vote no on this offer. Disney workers are facing extreme financial difficulties, including inflation, which has caused the price of food and rent to skyrocket. $16 per hour in 2023 does not keep up with the rising cost of living. Every worker needs an initial raise larger than $1 to address these concerns. A vote of union members will be held on February 2nd and 3rd, 2023. Details on the locations will be released at a later date. Now, they have not posted the results, and that's like 10 days ago, so I don't have that for you. But one of the things I do want to show is a video that, let me take this down and take this down so that it runs properly. Yeah, I'll take that down. Okay, I can take this down too. And also take that down. All right, so I have a video I'm going to show you guys as well. And this is how they roll. This is how they roll. All right. So this is from Mickey Views. Says Disney announces 7,000 layoffs / park investment and proxy fight ends. So let's go.
So you don't is any of that. So as I was at the Magic Kingdom with all these cast members, the CEO of the company, Bob Iger, sent out a company-wide email to cast members announcing 7,000 job cuts and providing no further detail. And then the cast members, they were getting texts from their parents. I saw it on the news. Disney's cutting 7,000 jobs. And they're like, yes, Mom, I know. Stop stressing me out. I have to say, we talk about these stories a lot, the financials at Disney and the, inner workings and all this sort of stuff. But there is something more real about it at this time. Among all these people, I'm talking to these people that these news stories we talk about most directly affect. We're talking about people's livelihoods here. It's definitely a pretty wild situation, and I will definitely be leveling my fair share of critiques Disney's way here, but I think it's also very easy to get carried away. So what I'm going to try to do here is give you guys a very good perspective on all of this, what's happening, why it's happening. So first off, we've got a new sheriff in town, a returning sheriff. As you all probably know, Chapek is out and Bob Iger is back. This was his first earnings call in quite a while. As you've probably heard, lots of big companies right now are announcing job cuts.
If you guys can see, it says Rupert Murdoch News Corp, which is home of Fox News, cut 1,250 jobs, laying off 5% of its workforce. Yahoo Finance says News Corp plans to cut jobs, misses estimates for earnings. CNBC says Yahoo to lay off 20% of staff by year end, beginning this week.
This is due to a number of factors. There's earnings contraction starting to happen, as we've seen with a lot of these Q1 reports. You're hearing people say stuff about macroeconomics and things like this. Essentially, the deal is at these growth companies that rely heavily on borrowing money, debt is becoming more and more expensive. The rates are higher, and corresponding with this, as we've entered this more uncertain economic environment, there has been a shift on the part of investors and Wall Street, where the focus is less and less on growth at all costs, like what's Disney Plus subscriber count, and that's the only thing that matters. And there's more of a focus on profitability. So is Disney Plus making money? And we know the answer is no, it isn't. And as I said, this isn't unique to Disney. A lot of big companies are announcing big cuts. And at a lot of these tech companies in particular, I think this makes a lot of sense. You're seeing at Google, they're laying off recruiters and their corporate massage therapists, things like this.
These companies are laying more than just that. They're doing a lot of staff layoffs. So, yeah, it still doesn't make sense to me.
In a tightening economic environment, it makes a lot of sense to get rid of positions like that. The difference is Disney isn't Google. Disney likes to act like a tech company. They're not a tech company. And Disney here, they're announcing 7,000 job cuts. And we heard today, these won't just be affecting the studios. They'll be affecting all segments of the company, including the parks, according to Parks Chairman Josh D'Amaro, which is just incredible because here's a company where on the studio side, a lot of these folks that you see in the credits, they aren't even directly employed by Disney. Lots of the content you see come out of Hollywood, it's people who work project to project all over Hollywood. And then you have Disney's networks, that make all of the television and stuff. A lot of those networks, the crews have been skeleton crews for a long time now. They already are operating, at their bare minimum staffing levels. And then, of course, we know on the park side, you have lots of demand, a lot of people who want to go to the parks, lots of people who love the parks, yet Disney can't find enough people to work at the parks for the prices that they're willing to pay.
And that's one point that a lot of people don't realize, is that Disney is struggling to find more people to work for them. But who wants to work for you if you're not willing to pay people a livable wage? Nobody wants to work for pennies. Nobody wants to work for a pittance. Because guess what? We need to live. And yet you're cutting 7,000 workers? Wait, you're hiring, but you're cutting jobs. Make that make sense.
Understaffed as is, and they are currently embroiled in a battle with the unions over wage increases. And we're coming out of the Chapek era, which we should also mention. Bob Chapek, he didn't just cut the fat. He also cut positions that I would classify as essential on a medium to long-term time horizon. Something like maintenance, cutting maintenance positions. Maybe that improves your margins a fraction of a percent in the near term. Long term, that is obviously a very poor decision and will end up
if you're cutting maintenance, especially for a theme park, and somebody dies on a ride, if you cut maintenance, and somebody dies on a ride or gets hurt. That's capitalism. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Costing you more later on. And then after all of this, here we get Iger back. And what do we hear? It's more the same. We're still getting layoffs, more layoffs. I really feel like we are past any fat in the company labor-wise. I really think Disney is starting to cut into the organs at this point where they're going to have to shut down areas that they operate in simply because there aren't enough casts left to even keep some of these things and these services that Disney provides going because they're already operating as skeleton crews. And here Disney is now trying to find 7,000 people to lay off in a show to investors, in a show to Wall Street. And maybe it's not just a show. Maybe they also have to do this because they have all of these financial obligations with the Fox acquisition and other beasts, which are of Iger's creation. So it's just some wild, wild stuff. Another bit of context with this earnings report in particular, this is the last big shareholder event before the shareholders vote as part of the next annual shareholders meeting, which we now know will take place on April 3rd. At the studios, Disney had some underwhelming theatrical releases that did not meet Disney's earnings projections. At the parks, though, you guys probably know how they did. They absolutely crushed. Revenues were up 21% to...
Park revenues were up 21%. Yet they're cutting staff. Yet they can't give their workers an adequate livable wage. Revenues are up 21% year over year. That's wild. Wild. And yet you can't give them an adequate livable wage. That's Disney. That's how they operate. Man. There's going to be a lot more homeless people in the streets now. Sad. Very sad.
$8.7 billion, and segment operating income increased 25% to $3.1 billion. Disney's just making stupid money at the parks, thanks to a lot of us. So now getting to the call, and this...
He said Disney is making stupid money at the parks. So much money, it's stupid. And you can't pay your workers a livable wage. I'm hammering this home, baby. Because you're making stupid money at the park. Stupid money. Like his words, stupid money. And you're saying, oh, we can only give them a $1 an hour raise. That's what we can afford. What? And then you want to cut maintenance crews? Maintenance? Capitalism is stupid. Capitalism is stupid. You're literally creating more socialists and communists that way. That's what you're literally doing. And guess what? You know what? I'm saying come in. Because all y'all that are getting all these layoffs and experiencing what capitalism is doing to you, come on in. Let's band together. Let's get rid of the system. Let's get rid of it. Because you guys are being screwed by a bunch of small group of people at the top that don't give a shit about you. That's basically what it is. They're making stupid money. And all that money that they made, that they acquired, is money that you produced. It was off of your labor. Because without you, those parks can't run. Those parks can't open. Try to get Space Mountain to work when there's nobody to operate the ride. Try to get mad tea party to run when there's nobody to move the controls, when there's nobody to collect the tickets, when there's nobody to drive the monorails, when there's nobody to drive the buses, when there's nobody to clean the rooms at these resorts, when there's nobody to check the guests in. Workers are the ones who run the parks. The workers are the ones that run the gift shops and the restaurants and the stores. So yeah, I mean, he has more. And one of the things that he brings out is, meanwhile, while Disney is laying off 7,000 workers, Universal Orlando is hiring over 2,000 people. And it's interesting because I have a family member that works for Universal Orlando. And my family member said that they hope that Disney unions agree to wage increases because that would mean an increase for their income as well. Because as Disney goes, Universal follows because they got to compete for those workers. So let's say hypothetically Disney says, okay, we're going to start giving y'all $22 an hour. 22 base pay. Guess what Universal has to do? Guess what SeaWorld has to do? Guess what Legoland Florida has to do? Guess what Busch Gardens has to do? Right? Then guess what? Fun Spot will start to raise their prices. Aquatica will have to raise their prices. Yeah, all of them. They all have to start raising their rates that they pay their labor. But they don't want to do that because it's about the profit. The profit motive, man. That's what rules. Oh boy.